She stood there, clutching the microphone with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. 9 years old. Too small for the stage. Too quiet for the crowd. When the announcer called her name as the winner, the room erupted, but she didn't smile. She looked into the audience instead, straight at her stepmother. "Say thank you," the woman hissed under her breath. The next sound wasn't applause. It was a sharp gasp, a sudden silence. Shayla felt the sting before she understood the moment. Her face burned. Her eyes watered. And right there, under the bright lights, she realized winning had just made her life harder. People stood frozen. Phones were raised. And one man in the front row slowly rose to his feet. No one knew yet that this moment would destroy one family and rebuild another from the ashes. And that's where her story truly began. Before we dive deeper, please, if you're listening to this right now, I want to prove my mom wrong. She said I can't even reach 5,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter. Subscribe to King's Folklore, and let's keep breathing life into tales that refuse to die. Now, let's continue. The house had learned Shayla's footsteps. Soft, careful, almost apologetic. Every morning before the sun fully rose, she slipped out of her narrow bed and tied her hair into the same neat ponytail. Not because anyone praised her for it, but because looking tidy was the only way she felt in control. The hallway floor creaked, and she froze every time, listening. When no voice called her name, she continued toward the kitchen. Vanessa liked the house quiet when she woke up. Shayla washed dishes that hadn't been used, wiped counters already clean, and packed lunches she wouldn't eat. Brianna's lunchbox always went first, colorful, heavy, filled with snacks Shayla had never tasted. Shayla's own lunch was usually a folded sandwich wrapped in plain paper, if she remembered to make one at all. "Don't forget the trash," Vanessa would say from the doorway, scrolling on her phone. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. "Yes, ma'am," Shayla replied, eyes down. Dennis, her father, was usually gone by then. Early shifts, long hours, tired excuses. He kissed Shayla's head when he remembered. Most days, he didn't notice how thin she'd grown or how quiet she'd become. After her mother died, silence moved into the house like a permanent guest. School was different. In Mrs. Washington's fourth-grade classroom, Shayla sat straight, answered questions softly, and read words other kids skipped. Letters made sense to her. They lined up properly. They followed rules. When she spelled, the world felt fair. "Extraordinary," Mrs. Washington murmured one afternoon, watching Shayla spell perseverance without hesitation. Shayla blinked. "Is that good?" Mrs. Washington smiled gently. "That's very good." It was the first time anyone had said that to her in a long while. At home, excellence was invisible. When Shayla tried to study, Vanessa always found something else for her to do. Fold laundry, scrub the bathroom, watch the stove. Brianna lounged nearby, tablet in hand, barely looking up. "She's just a child," Dennis once said weakly. "And so is Brianna," Vanessa snapped back. "Yet I don't see her acting helpless." Shayla learned not to interrupt. One evening, Mrs. Washington called the house. Vanessa answered, her tone syrupy sweet. "A regional spelling bee," she repeated, eyes lighting up. "Scholarship money?" Shayla stood at the hallway corner, heart pounding. "Yes," Mrs. Washington said. $2,000. And I believe Shayla would be an excellent candidate. Vanessa glanced at Shayla, then smiled thinly. "Of course. We'll discuss it as a family." That night, the discussion happened without Shayla. "I'll sign Brianna up too," Vanessa decided. "She deserves opportunities." "But she hates spelling," Dennis said. "She hates losing," Vanessa replied sharply. "And I won't have my daughter embarrassed." From that moment, the house shifted. Brianna got new books, flashcards, tutors who came twice a week. Vanessa sat beside her, praising every small effort. Shayla watched from the kitchen doorway, wiping the same spot on the counter over and over. When Shayla's dictionary disappeared, Vanessa shrugged. "Maybe you misplaced it." When chores doubled, Vanessa smiled. Responsibility builds character. Late at night, Shayla whispered words to herself in the dark, spelling them slowly, carefully, like prayers. She traced letters on her palm, afraid to use paper she might lose. Have you ever worked twice as hard just to be allowed to exist? At school, Mrs. Washington noticed the dark circles under Shayla's eyes. Are you okay? She asked gently. Shayla nodded. She always nodded. The day of the spelling bee arrived bright and loud. Shayla wore a simple dress she'd ironed herself. Brianna wore something new, Vanessa fussing over her hair while ignoring Shayla completely. The auditorium buzzed with excitement. Parents whispered. Cameras flashed. Shayla sat straight, hands folded, heart racing. Each word came and went. Difficult ones. Tricky ones. She spelled them all. Brianna stumbled early. Snickers rippled through the crowd. Vanessa's smile vanished. When the final word was announced, Shayla spelled it clean. Correct. The applause thundered. Shayla smiled for the first time that day, just a little. Then she heard Vanessa's heels. Ungrateful, Vanessa hissed, grabbing her arm. After everything I do, the sound cut through the room like glass. Gasps. Silence. Shayla staggered, eyes wide, cheek burning. She didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen, 9 years old and suddenly very alone. Someone stood up. A man in a tailored suit, eyes sharp, phone still raised. That, he said calmly, will not be ignored. The room didn't move for a heartbeat. Not the judges. Not the parents. Not even the children still clutching their spelling cards. Shayla felt the echo of the slap linger longer than the pain itself. Her ears rang. The applause had died, so suddenly it felt unnatural, like someone had sucked all the air out of the auditorium. She stared at the floor, eyes stinging, shoulders pulled inward the way she'd learned to protect herself at home. Vanessa straightened her blouse as if nothing had happened. She needs discipline, she snapped, loud enough for several rows to hear. Don't look at me like that. Brianna stood a few feet away, frozen, confusion flickering across her face. For once, she didn't look proud. She didn't look happy. She looked scared. Shayla's knees trembled. Then the man spoke again. Ma'am, he said, stepping into the aisle, voice calm but unyielding. You just assaulted child. On camera. In public. Vanessa laughed sharply. Mind your business. He raised his phone slightly. It became my business the moment you struck her. Whispers erupted like sparks catching fire. Mrs. Washington rushed forward, placing herself between Shayla and Vanessa. This child is under my care right now, she said firmly, resting a hand on Shayla's shoulder. You will not touch her again. Shayla had never had anyone stand in front of her before. Security approached. Vanessa's face flushed. This is ridiculous. She's my stepdaughter. The man met her glare, and that makes it worse. He introduced himself quietly to the judges, then to the school officials. Marcus Winters. The name carried weight even before anyone Googled it. A self-made billionaire. Philanthropist. The primary sponsor of the regional spelling bee. Every scholarship funded here, Marcus said, comes with a responsibility to protect these children. Police were called. Child Protective Services was notified. The words floated over Shayla's head, heavy and unreal. She was led backstage, Mrs. Washington kneeling in front of her. You did nothing wrong, she whispered. Do you hear me? Shayla nodded, though she wasn't sure she believed it yet. Dennis arrived late, breathless and confused, pulled from work by frantic calls. When he saw Shayla's face, red, swollen, streaked with silent tears, something in him finally cracked. What happened? He demanded. No one answered right away. Marcus stepped forward. Sir, your daughter was harmed. And it was an accident. Dennis turned slowly toward Vanessa, who stood stiff and defiant. Vanessa? She embarrassed us, Vanessa shot back. She needed to learn. Dennis raised a hand. His voice shook. Enough. Shayla had never heard that tone from him before. That night, Shayla didn't go home. She stayed with Mrs. Washington, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, staring at the ceiling while the world rearranged itself without asking her permission. A CPS worker spoke gently. Police reports were written. Phones rang long after midnight. Marcus visited once more before leaving. He crouched to Shayla's level. You were very brave today, he said softly. I just spelled the words, Shayla replied. He smiled sadly. Sometimes that's how courage shows up. The next weeks moved fast. Vanessa was arrested and charged. Video footage spread quickly, too quickly. Dennis filed for divorce. Custody arrangements changed. Brianna was sent to live with her aunt, crying quietly the day she packed her bags. Before she left, she slipped a folded note into Shayla's hand. "I didn't know," it read. "I am sorry." Shayla held onto that note for a long time. Marcus Winters kept his promise. The scholarship didn't just pay for school supplies, it opened doors. Tutoring, counseling, a safer school environment, and eventually a quiet mentorship that never felt overwhelming. "You don't owe me anything," he told Dennis. "Just let her grow." And grow she did. Shayla stood a little taller, smiled a little easier. She won another spelling bee the following year, this time with her father in the front row, tears in his eyes, clapping harder than anyone else. Sometimes, late at night, Shayla still remembered the slap, but it no longer defined her. Have you ever seen one moment change everything? Because sometimes the world doesn't shift when someone is hurt. It shifts when someone finally refuses to look away. Years passed quietly, but powerfully. Shayla no longer counted her days by chores or silence. She counted them by chapters read, words learned, and mornings where the house felt safe. Dennis changed in ways that surprised even himself. He stopped leaving early just to avoid conflict. He cooked breakfast on weekends. He listened, really listened, when Shayla spoke. Healing didn't arrive all at once. It came in small, steady moments. A spelling trophy on a shelf. A framed photo from her next competition. A seat at the dinner table where no one rushed her to finish. Marcus Winters never tried to replace a father. He simply showed up when it mattered. Monthly check-ins. Encouraging emails. A quiet presence at competitions, always clapping last, never loud. When Shayla qualified for the National Spelling Bee, he sent a handwritten note. "You earned this. Walk forward without fear." On the day she took the national stage, Shayla paused before stepping out. The lights felt familiar now. Not frightening, just bright. She spelled the word correctly. Again and again. She didn't win first place that year, but it didn't matter. She had already won something deeper. Confidence. Safety. A future that no longer trembled. After the competition, a letter arrived in the mail. Brianna's handwriting was uneven but careful. "I hope you're happy," it read. "I'm trying to be better too." Shayla smiled and folded the letter gently. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but it meant choosing peace. That night, she looked at herself in the mirror and whispered the same words she once traced on her palm in the dark. Perseverance. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't standing on a stage. It's surviving long enough to become who you were always meant to be. Moral, or the story. Life doesn't always protect the innocent, but people can. Shayla's story reminds us that talent can bloom even in harsh soil, and that silence is often more dangerous than cruelty itself. When one person chooses courage, a child's entire future can change. Love isn't proven by blood, it's proven by action, by showing up, and by refusing to look away. Speech Balloon, if this story touched you, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales from King's Folklore. And even if it didn't, come on, subscribe anyway. We'll win you over next time. Drop a comment, like the video, and let's keep the stories alive. Thanks for watching.